Usually residential properties depreciate over 27.5 years. You can take 100% of that depreciation this year. There are still ways you don't have to put 25% down.
How do you pick the markets that you've invested in? Have you seen that single family gives you the best ROI, condo, duplex?
I turned one property into two higher end without spending an extra penny out of pocket.
They're jumping off the fence and purchasing homes even when the interest rates are a tad higher at the moment. When you're putting your investment hat on, what is your take?
Well, welcome back. I am Stephanie with Live Sotheby's, a realtor here in the Colorado mountains from Vail through Breckenridge. Today, I am here with Paige, a friend and fellow realtor here at Live Sotheby's. We are going to talk about investing and what that journey has looked like a little bit for myself and what it could look like for Paige as she gets started.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie. So excited to be here today and talk about investing. Stephanie isn't just talking about it. She also manages and owns 16 properties. 16 properties, which is super impressive. So I'm wanting to start my own investment journey, excited to learn more and ask you some questions.
Awesome. I'm an open book. It has changed the financial trajectory for my family. So super passionate about it.
Great. Well, let's just get started with asking you how you got started.
Oh, I'd actually just had my third kid. My brain felt a little mushy as I was just counting to 10 in colors every day. But actually, I'd always had a passion and interest in real estate. And two women were put in my life that were investors. And one of them especially was willing to mentor me. So I think a lot of this as you get started is recognizing who are those people in your life that will shepherd you and guide you. And you can ask all the questions and you have to be vulnerable too, because some of that is laying out some of your financial stuff and your goals and what that looks like. So I really got started as a stay-at-home mom who wanted to make a difference in our family's financial situation, but didn't know how to do that with 3 kids at home. So yeah, that's lots of book reading, lots of research on the market, was not a realtor at that time. But
awesome. Well, let's talk about your first property. How did you find it? Why did you start with that property? And what did that process look like?
It was terrifying. It was long and it was terrifying. Like I said, I had a great mentor that was willing to answer all the questions. Found an incredible realtor, not just a plug for us, but knowing someone that can crunch numbers and know what the market really looks like where you are is really important. So a gentleman named Jeremy was my realtor at that time. We looked at loads of houses, got really good at math, crunching numbers and doing the things, found the one, and that was it. So it was terrifying though. And I remember when I told my husband, hey, I found the one, we're going to write an offer. Jeremy will meet you tomorrow and show you the property. And he was like, I don't want to look at it. I haven't done the research. I haven't done the homework. I don't know.
Right.
And so kudos to my husband, but I knew if it failed, it was all on me. And if it took off, good on me.
Right. Very cool. So what do you mean it's not always about the cash? So explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So it is great at the end of the year to look and say, oh my gosh, I made $10,000, I made $50,000. But here in our market especially, it's really hard to cash flow on our properties. Our HOAs, our properties are a higher price point. So what is that equity growth? And that's really the growth here in the luxury market. And here in the mountains, we average 7% equity growth year over year. Now, we have the years of COVID that have been much more. We have this year in 2025 where it definitely hasn't been that. But that's our average. And so if you were to buy $1 million home, hold it for 5, 6, 7 years, that's a good bit of equity growth. Right. So if your costs along the way as you rent it can offset some of that when you go to sell, that's really where your investment pays off, not to mention if you've enjoyed it along the way. Another tool we need to talk about, maybe we circle back later, is a 1031 tax exchange. And so how to utilize that as an investor and defer your taxes so you have more equity to buy the next investment. Also, sometimes it's not about the cash flow, but it's about taxes. Right. So if you do own a home here and you come out to visit and check on your property, you get to write that trip off. Also, our high income earners, part of the Trump's big beautiful bill that passed recently is 100% depreciation on homes that are short-term rented. They do have to be a short-term rental. You do have to be somewhat involved in that. There are caveats. We can talk about that. But Usually residential properties depreciate over 27.5 years. You can take 100% of that depreciation this year. So you might be able to write off an extra $200,000 of your income. So definitely a nuance for some of our high income earners. And all of it, it's a game, kind of like Monopoly. How are you going to play the game?
Right. No, that's very true. This all sounds awesome. Let's talk about how do you even get started?
Huh.
It's a loaded question, but
Right. Again, it's mindset. It's how can I play the game? You need to have some people in your corner. If you're just getting started, you don't know everything. Right. So that is going to come with, if you own any other property, do you have equity in that you can pull out? Is it a primary residence? Is it another investment you have? Can you pull money out of there? It's called a HELOC, home equity line of credit. Can you use those funds to help you buy another property? Is there someone in your family that can help you? There are also different loans and different ways to play with that. An investment loan is different than a primary loan, but there are still ways you don't have to put 20, 25% down. So really being creative with it. Personally, now my properties weren't in such a high cost of living area, but we kind of pinched our pennies and we lived below our means to help. But then we started using those HELOCs and using any funds, any way we could get them.
that's awesome. So essentially you could acquire a property without pulling out any money out of pocket if you have enough equity in your other properties.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about how do you pick the markets that you've invested in? I know you've invested in different markets. So how did you pinpoint which one would be, your best investment?
Well, that goes back to your goals. What are your goals? If it's cash flow, Breckenridge, Vail, we're not going to be your market. I'd love to help you, but
Right.
we're not going to be your market. If it is holding a property for a while and having that security and maybe diversifying your financial portfolio, this is an awesome market for you. So looking back at those goals, is this a place you want to enjoy as well? Or do you not care to? So is it something you're going to long-term rent, or are you going to short-term rent it so your family can use it? So whether that's the beach, the mountains. I was just talking to an investor earlier this week who owns some incredible properties on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail.
Wow.
But has found a niche market there. So again, mindset and goals. Keep going back to those.
Okay. Love that. Going off a little bit more into choosing the right property. Have you seen that single family gives you the best ROI, condo, duplex?
It depends, right? Again, your goals. What are those goals? Because that ROI, that return on investment, is going to look different in each market depending on your goals. Your ROI might only be 1 or 2% here in the mountains. It might be 8 to 10% in a different area where you're more focused on that cash flow. So again, what are those? If you're looking here in the mountains, be very aware of our short-term rental restrictions. Let's make sure you're buying a property that does fit your needs. So in Breck alone, we have 4 rental zones. Are you in the resort zone or zone 1 that allows you to short-term rent? Pick a realtor that knows their stuff.
Right. That's very important.
Paige, myself, and Lisa would love to help you. And is it ski in, ski out? Is that important to you? If it is, you're going to pay a little bit more for that, but you're also going to be able to rent for a little bit more. So it's just kind of a game. If you're not here in the luxury market, school districts, look at those school districts. So I know that I very intentionally chose some properties that were in the best school districts within about 2 hours. And so I do have folks that are like, that's where I have to be. That's where I want my family.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about management and operations. So how are you managing the property? Are you doing it yourself? Do you hire a third party? How are you doing it?
Yeah, well, that has evolved.
Okay.
So the first handful of properties I bought, I was incredibly hands-on. I have laid my fair share of LVP flooring. I have done a lot of painting. I've knocked down walls, been very hands-on with that process to start with because every penny counted.
Yeah, some more sweat equity in the beginning.
Yes, yes. But now having more, I think so much of it, or I know so much of it comes down to who do you surround yourself with, right? Who's your support system? So guys, don't pick the cheapest electrician. Don't pick the least expensive hot water heater repair guy, like plumber. Pick the best in the trade. You're going to get your return.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel like you have to babysit the person when they're at the property. You want to know it's done and it's done right, because nothing's going to kill your investment like capacity. Capacity is having to redo things again and again and again. And we know things are going to happen. Hot water heaters are going to fail. ACs and heaters are going to fail. So again, mindset, being okay with that, budgeting for it, but picking people to surround yourself with to support you that are going to actually take care of them. But you have to take care of them too. Right. I give all my people great gift cards at Christmas. I do the things so they show up. They usually bump me to the front of the line. I'm not waiting 3 weeks for a plumber to come. They're there that day.
Okay.
Right. So form that relationship with your support system, regardless of what market you're in, what price point you're at.
Okay, Steph. So as you know, I have bought a condo in Silverthorne as a primary residence, lived in it for a couple years, ended up moving to Breckenridge with my boyfriend. And now I'm thinking about selling it and buying something different. What are my next steps?
Oh, well, I think some of that, it goes back to our goals, right? What are your goals? And let's look at where you are with that property. So look at what equity you have in that. Is it better for you to open a HELOC and use the equity but keep the property? If you're renting it and making decent cash flow and that kind of stuff, maybe that's an option. If you just have realized it's not the property for you and you want more of that money, that's where I suggest a 1031 tax exchange. So let's keep numbers round. You bought a condo for $1 million. It's now worth 1.25. So when you sell the property and you have $250,000 in equity growth, I don't want to pay capital gains taxes on those. You don't want to pay capital gains tax on it. No, okay, let's be real. The government's going to get their money.
Yeah.
But we can defer it. And so as an investor, when you're trying to build this portfolio, that's how you play the game. So instead of paying 25, 33%, whatever it is, on that, you do a 1031 tax exchange. So all that equity is going to be held by a third party until you find your new property. There's more to it than that. There's days and different things. Pick up the phone, give Paige, Lisa, myself a call. But you now have $250,000 to go purchase your next property as a down payment instead of $200,000. Okay. So personally, I did this with kind of a fix and flip on the East Coast. I found a very reasonable property back in 2011. So the market was still recovering. It was a different time, but bought it with the mindset of flipping it. Realized I was going to get slaughtered on taxes.
Yeah.
So there are different timeframes to hold your home. Sometimes it's 12 months, sometimes it's 24 months. But if you hold it for that time frame, your taxes are going to be reduced. So again, another part of the game, I decided to long-term rent the property for a couple years to avoid paying those extra taxes. And I 1031'd that equity into 2 high-end rental properties.
Wow.
So I turned 1 property into 2 higher end without spending an extra penny out of pocket.
Wow.
So I think for you, it's going to be, hey, let's sit down. Let's look at the numbers and let's look at your goals. Are your goals to buy something else in Breck that fits your next chapter in life? Is it to buy a place on the coast where come April, May, when we're done with the snow, you can escape to? And so, digging into the nuances of your financial situation and your goals. We could definitely come up with that. But those are some of the things that come to mind first.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That is very helpful. And let's talk a little bit about our clients. We work with a lot of investors. We know the nuances of our current market in Breckenridge. I know you also work in Vail. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's talk about the 4 zones that we're dealing with and how are we guiding our investors in this current market?
Oh. It's what a lot of our clients are. One thing, as Paige mentioned, our 4 zones. Resort zone in zone 1, you can get a short-term rental license. Zone 3 and 4, just don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Other places in Summit County, every little town also has its rules. So Frisco is different than Dillon. That's different than Silverthorne. It's different than Vail and Avon and Beaver Creek. So again, hire a realtor that knows their stuff. So you make sure you're buying a home that at least fits your need. But from there, I think, and Paige, I'm sure you've had these conversations that here, that cash flow is tough.
It is.
It is tough, but it really comes back to, I feel like, those goals. Is it strictly an investment? Is it tax write-offs? Is it personal enjoyment?
Right.
And so, Bob calls and wants a single family here in Breck or wants that condo and it needs to be ski in and ski out. And so there's going to be those things that really affect it, right? If you have big views, that's going to affect your price point. If you're ski in, ski out, that's going to affect it. It also is going to affect your rental income. I think another thing we don't talk about enough is that when you are looking to rent here, do know in general, Frisco is extra special because someone has to be, but your capacity is 2 people per bedroom plus an additional 2. So if you buy a 2-bedroom condo, when you market your STR, its capacity is 6. If you buy a 1-bedroom, it's 4. And that does affect your income, but it also affects what you have to put out in the beginning. So it really does become a numbers thing and a goals thing and what's going to fit your family and your needs. And you're right, the market, the luxury market is very different than a lot of other markets in the country. So talking to Paige, myself, Lisa, someone that knows it, that is used to working with investors day in and day out, can relate to you, knows how to play the game, is going to be really important. And also a part of it is some investors don't like risk and they want to buy everything in cash, right? That's fine. I chose not to. Very conservative everywhere else financially. I know I did put 25% down. So, but that allowed me to buy 4 properties instead of just 1, right? So if I had $1 million, instead of buying 1 property for $1 million, I bought 4 properties at $1 million, putting $250,000 down per property. With the equity growth that happened over COVID, I'm really thankful that's the path I chose.
Right.
Because now all of my properties grew tremendously in value. So again, that's a personal risk. And what are you comfortable with in that? It's going to be different for everyone. So this is where we talk about that transparency and working with someone you can trust. Also, maybe we're getting into the weeds here. If you choose to do a loan, make sure it's a loan that fits your needs. It is different than a primary loan. And yes, there's different requirements maybe on what you have to put down, but how it's used is really important. And not all lenders can lend on a lot of our stuff in the mountains. So I know your trusted person in California or Michigan, they do an awesome job for you. But if they don't have the products needed to purchase in our buildings that have a lot of short-term rentals that are very unique, you need to use someone that can get us to the closing table because that's our goal, right? Is to get to the finish line.
And we know so many local lenders that can get the job done. And it's we trust them. We refer them out to our clients every day. And it's super important to sellers up here too. They want you to be using local lenders. So
yeah, you represent loads of sellers. Yeah. And is that one of the first questions that you ask the agent when they come to you with an offer?
Yeah. It's important. We love to see, obviously proof of funds or pre-approval letter. But we like to see our sellers especially just want to trust that you're using a right lender that is not going to not be able to get the job done when we get to the closing table. So we like to see and know the lender that is on that pre-approval letter.
Right.
So that definitely helps the offers up here.
It does.
Okay, Steph. So right now we're seeing, some buyers sitting on the sidelines, some buyers that are jumping off the fence and purchasing homes even when the interest rates are a tad higher at the moment. When you're putting your investment hat on, what is your take?
Well, when you can buy a house is the right time to buy a house.
I love that.
Be straight. It's especially in our market here, that equity growth is going to happen. No one's going to time the bottom of the market perfectly. So when you have the opportunity, when you find the house that the numbers make sense, that fit your needs, that's the time to buy. And you are right, Paige. I know I'm seeing in my business so many buyers that are like, oh, wow, we have a touch more inventory than we've had, or these things that I'm going to buy now. And then I have those folks sitting there saying, oh, I want to wait for rates to drop, right? Those people are killing me.
They're always kicking themselves too when they're waiting.
They are, because really buy now at 6.5%. Because what did we talk about with equity? What happens here? going to go up.
It's going to go up.
And it's going to go up faster than you can save. And you're really going to regret paying $30,000 more for the same property next year.
Right.
You're going to really wish you had bought it at 6.5% and refinanced when rates drop, because there's a direct correlation, right? I mean, when rates go down, our home prices go up.
And they always say you date the rate, you marry the price. I mean, that's a term that is very true.
Yeah. So again, that investor mindset, it is number crunching, and it's not numbers today. It's numbers. What do those numbers look like in 3 years and 5 years and 10 years? Right. And back to those goals, right? I wanted to pay for college and cash for my kids. I wanted to do some of these things that seemed so far-fetched. But when I started, I had to have those numbers in mind, but I also had to be focused on right then and there. And it is hard. It's really hard to get off the fence. Those first 4 were terrifying until I kind of got enough to know, okay, I had a heater break, hot water heater, I need to replace a roof. You know you have enough income coming in from other things to cover it. So I will acknowledge there was that emotional or hurdle you kind of gotta get through too.
Well, you gave us a lot of great information and a lot to process. And I'm excited to go talk to my tax guy right after this. And maybe one day I'll have 16 properties. That's my goal.
And, Paige, I always am available for a cup of coffee, lunch, cocktail, and let's dig into it. I don't have all the answers for you, but let's look at your specific situation, your goals, and let's come up with a plan. And I know, gosh, you would love to do the same for your folks and be available for them. I'm happy to do it, Lisa as well. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to watch this, to learn a little bit more about investing in real estate. Incredible asset. It's a tangible asset. It's not going to poof and disappear on you like money in the market will. Give us a call. We would love to walk through the steps with you, learn what your goals are, and what could make a great fit for you here in the mountain market.
All right, let's go get that cocktail right now and crunch some numbers.
Let's go.